So you've heard about this thing called the 6 foot track ultramarathon. And you thought, yeah, I want to do that one. And then you trained hard and got a qualifier at an approved trail or road event. And then you realised you weren't guaranteed an entry and had to try and get in via the lottery process. And then you got in via the lottery process and had to remember you only had a certain time to register to hold your spot. Otherwise your spot goes to someone else in the second lottery. And then you read the fine print and found out that you have to finish in under 7 hours or it doesn't count as a finish in what usually takes hikers 3 days to do. So you're telling me if I don't do under 7 hours, that doesn't classify as finishing?
You serious?
Yes, I'm serious. Welcome to the 6 foot track ultramarathon. Alright, so in this next 12 kilometres from Allum Creek up to the Junction, it's all wide fire trail. There's no single technical sections to speak of. Depending on how much rain we've had between here and the start of the Pluvi climb, which is about 700 metres from the Allum Creek checkpoint, there will be 3 creek crossings. If we've had a bit of rain, the water level might be up a bit. And the times that I've done this, it's been anything from dry to just under knee deep. Like the Cox's River, it's highly probable that you'll pick up some little gristly stones. Unlike the Cox's River crossing though, there's no buckets to wash your shoes out. So my tip is, unless you have rocks that you can feel in your shoes and socks, just keep going. However, if you have picked up a passenger you can feel, take it out. This is also where it's handy to carry blister pads in your pack or in your belt, just in case you do start to feel part of your feet rubbing on some things that you might have picked up in a creek. Based on the 7 hour pacer time, you should be through Allum Creek in approximately 3 hours and 17 minutes to be under sweeper pace. From there, the timing mat at the top of Pluvi is another 4 kilometres up the hill. To get up to the top of Pluvi before the 7 hour pace cutoff is 4 hours 10. To hit that 4 hour 10 mark, you need to be averaging approximately 13 minutes a kilometre on the climb. Now, 13 minutes a K sounds quite generous, and the elevation gain on Pluvi is very similar to the climb on Mini, except it's over a shorter distance and you don't get the downhill bits like you do in the cattle yard section of Pluvi, where you actually get to run downhill a little bit. The Pluvi climb is literally a climb. There are no real downhill bits. Over the 3 kilometres from the 23 kilometre mark, you'll pick up 126 metres of elevation, 140 metres and 145 metres respectively. And that is where hiking efficiency becomes a key part of your training program, and also from stopping you blowing up on race day. And depending on the pace that you're going, if you're a wave 5 or wave 6 runner doing 6 to 7 hours, this section could take you well over half an hour and possibly 40 minutes depending on your pace, which is a long time to be climbing. Unlike UTA, you aren't allowed to use hiking poles in 6 foot. If you get caught with them and using them, you risk disqualification. And I don't reckon it's worth getting disqualified for. No hiking poles. Alright, when we get about 200 metres from the top of the Pluvi climb, it's actually the best view if you look back down the valley. Sometimes it's nice just to appreciate where you've actually come from and stop for 30 seconds if you can afford it. We're now coming up to the top of the Pluvy climb and just about to hit the start of the Black Range. Just as you get to this little crest, there'll be a timing mat, and apart from the Cox's River aid station, this will probably end up being the biggest one on course. So if you've got some time, just check where you're at and get ready for the next 9Ks out on the range. If the aid station locations are in the same place as previous years, then in the Pluvy section you will get 4 separate stations. So there'll be one at 22 kilometres at Allum Creek on the flat section. On the climb you'll then have another one at 23.6 k's, another one at 24.8, and then the one at the Pluvy timing map at the top, which is roughly 26.2 kilometres in. In the Black Range, there are also 4 between the top of Pluvy and the Junction. You'll have one at 27.3, 28.5, 31.9, and then actually at the Junction once you get there. Now it's really important to use these aid stations wisely, especially if it's warm on race day, which it can be in March, and there are long sections where if it's not much airflow and you've got the sun on the back, you might cook a little bit. The average pace required on the Black Range is just over 9 minutes per kilometre. Over the 8.5 k's from the Pluvy checkpoint to the end of the Black Range, you'll pick up a total of about 250 metres of elevation gain, with the 31st kilometre being the steepest part. It comes in with around about 70 metres of elevation gain for that K. So the importance of hydration and nutrition can't be understated, especially with 6 foot, and even though technically it's only 45 k's. If you're starting in wave 4 and 5, well, that comes with the expectation that you're going to finish somewhere between sort of 6 and 7 hours before you get to the end. Now the first finishes from wave 1 will be done in under 4 hours, and with them starting at 7 o'clock, quite a few of those guys will be finished before 11. If you're going to take 6 or 7 hours and you're starting in wave 4 or 5, you're potentially looking at a finish time of 2:30 in the afternoon or a little bit later, which is going to leave you exposed to the elements a lot more than the guys up in the front waves. So it's important to know your body, respect the conditions, and keep the hydration levels up. Now the pacers and the sweepers are on course to help you. We are there to help you finish and not to actually intentionally ruin your day. The pacers know the course, when to have a conservative energy strategy and when to push. However, part of the prestige of this event is the challenging cut-off time of 7 hours. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to get to the end under 7 hours, and the DNF rate is usually somewhere between 5 and 10% of the total field. If you are in the vicinity of one of the pacers or sweepers and want some advice on the course and whether that's what's coming up in terms of elevation, the pace you need to run at, or the terrain, just ask. The pacers and the sweepers are there to help you. It might just be that reassurance you get from a pacer or a sweeper to give you a confidence to come in under 7 hours. Alright, here we are at the end of the Black Range for 34.5 k's in. Normally we would head down that way, but because of the closure of the road at Janolan Caves House, we are now going to be heading that way. I hope that's given you a good overview of that third section from Allum Creek up here to the end of the Black Range. Check out some other videos in the series, the section from the start down to Megalong Road out to Allum Creek, and then of course episode 4, which will be from this point here out to the finish line. I'm Skipp Phoenix. Stay safe, and wherever you're running, make sure you enjoy yourself. Still no coffee.